Well, if anyone's had a couple of chances in the NFL from a high-round pick to then being a journeyman to then finding his feet again, it's Baker Mayfield. We've seen him have his time in Cleveland, go to Carolina, flame out, had a couple moments in Los Angeles, and is now playing pretty well for the Bucs. He was on the Pat McAfee Show on Friday, guys, previewing you can't say it's the Red River rivalry now. It's not the Red River shootout. The Red River rivalry, Oklahoma versus Texas. Did you guys hear the comments? If not, we're going to play them.
I did,
you,
but
go
for the audience
play
that
it.
didn't hear
if you
them.
didn't hear, this is Baker Mayfield on his situation and how it ended in Cleveland on the Pat McAfee Show from Friday. Anthony.
You to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback that is able to win a playoff game in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. So not only go to the playoffs, win a playoff game against the Steelers, it felt like at that moment we were all like, well, football gods just said, hey, this guy's going to be in Cleveland forever. Yep. This is the Browns guy. This is his moment. And then just a couple years later, you're to the Panthers, and then you're to the Rams, and now you're the Bucs. Did you feel a moment in time, you don't have to say exactly when it was, where you knew maybe this wasn't going to be my forever home? And what was it from the outside looking in? We're very confused by it all. Just want to let you know that.
I think I'm still confused too.
Okay.
Makes sense.
No, I think towards the end there, I played 2021 with a pretty much torn apart shoulder, and I was excited to get the surgery, get healthy, and get another shot to try and get back to that 2020 form. But that wasn't their plan, and I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. Now, the roller coaster I went on after that was a little bit nuts for me. It gave me a good perspective, being in Carolina, trying to be a good mentor to a couple guys, and just a different perspective on it. Take a step back, be a good leader, and then also at the same time, then going to LA, it was like, all right, looking at each other, I got a 5-game season here, let's make the most of it and pad the resume.
Is anybody, Pat McAfee says we're all confused. Is anybody actually confused besides Pat McAfee?
I still have questions.
I think the national media is be confused about it.
Yeah, because they weren't in the minutia of all the stuff that was going on.
No, I think most people that cover football realize you have to have a top quarterback to win. Baker was clearly not a top quarterback. The Browns took a chance on a guy who's had off-field problems because he's been that kind of quarterback before he got here.
Well,
it makes perfect sense. Whether it works out or not is another story, but it made perfect sense.
I think at the 10,000 feet, like a lot of players are not sitting here game to game watching film.
Yeah.
They just know, hey, the Browns have been trash. They went to Pittsburgh. They won a game in Pittsburgh. You're number one pick. I thought they think it's a foregone conclusion that you get another year. Like Daniel Jones, right? Hey, you won a playoff game last year. You just automatically get the bag, right? It don't matter if we think you're that good. Quarterbacks that are number one picks that win playoff games usually don't get jettisoned.
You know another first-round pick that won a playoff game in Pittsburgh? Tim Tebow.
You haven't said anything yet. What's your thought? Do you think that in general, that not in Cleveland, because I think Clevelanders quickly picked a camp, and they put their flag in the ground, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to talk me out of it,
right?
Whether you were pro Baker or against Baker.
It was unbelievably polarizing.
I said this before. The only situation, that's why it's really interesting that you brought up that Tim Tebow won a playoff game. Tim Tebow is the only player, and his was on a national scale, that I've seen that's more polarizing than Baker Mayfield.
That's probably, yeah.
But
for
Tim
different
Tebow wasn't
reasons.
any good. He was only polarizing because he was popular. He couldn't play in the NFL.
You've insisted that Baker isn't any good.
No, I've insisted that Baker's not a top 20 starter.
Okay, if you're in the bottom 12, you're not any good by your own standards.
Well, there's a big difference between Tim Tebow's not an NFL quarterback. Baker Mayfield is, in my opinion, a lower tier starting quarterback.
Right.
And you can't win with that guy. That's a big difference between Tim Tebow, who's not an NFL quarterback.
Go ahead.
Well, I think probably around the country, some people probably don't pay that close attention to the Browns, and they're probably curious. But I think if you lived it, Baker knows exactly why he's not here. I'm a little confused. Well, you asked for a trade, number one. Now, there was a lot of reasons that led to that.
Yeah,
there was a lot
he didn't come out of the blue and say, trade me.
But I almost liken it to why I was saying you need to go after Jonathan Taylor, because there was something that was clearly better that was out there than what you had currently. If none of this happened with Deshaun Watson, if Deshaun never asked for a trade from Houston in the first place, take away all of the allegations and everything, go back before all that. If he doesn't ask for a trade out of Houston and that whole thing unravels, Baker probably is still back here because there was nobody out there that was clearly head and shoulders better.
And Kevin had
than
said,
what the
I can
Browns
move
had.
forward with this guy.
Yeah, I think that the Browns felt like the reason they targeted Deshaun was they felt like he was head and shoulders clearly better than Baker, and they had the numbers to back it up. Now, has it panned out that way? No, not to this point it hasn't. We still got a long way to go.
Right.
But to this point, he hasn't been demonstrably
Deshaun's numbers
better.
have been Baker Mayfield-esque in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
Very Baker
I
Mayfield-esque.
can go back. I was just trying to pull it up. I can't find them, but I've written about this a million times. Throw the shoulder injury out. Just look at his late game situations. Baker's late game.
Awful. Not performing.
Got to have it moments.
Yep.
And there was always an excuse. The Kansas City game, he had to drive him down the field through the interception. Well, he was tripped. Or there was always an excuse attached to it. The fact is, he could never deliver and got to have it moments when you need your quarterback the most. And that's why I'm to take this back to the Purdy thing, I'm really curious to see how does Purdy react in those situations when the Niners are against a really good team. Yeah, when you're in a late game, got to have it. You're at the 15 and you got to drive and score, and you got 88 seconds to do it. How do you respond?
Right.
Baker can't handle those situations, and that's why they moved on from him. He just didn't have it. Now he could have a wonderful year in Tampa. He could put up great numbers this year, and the Master Bakers are going to take a victory lap, and that's fine.
It's already.
But
I mean,
then,
he's on his way to that.
But yes, well, he's
at the quarter pole. He's on his way. You could be still in the starting gate, and he's clearly not.
Yeah, we're quarter way in the end. He's played great, and he could have a wonderful statistical year. That doesn't mean next year he's going to come back and do it again, because history has shown with him it's that level of consistency week to week to week and year to year to year that he does not possess. So I'm never going to kill the Browns. Now, maybe we get to the point where we look back and say that was a mistake. But I'm not going to kill them for that, because I was all in favor. I didn't think Baker had it. I think I was the first in town to say, this is not it. They have to do better than that.
It would never have been a mistake to improve for Baker.
You might have been
a mistake to have.
Yeah, I got Duke and knee-jerk.
After the Chiefs game is the first time I thought, I'm not sure this guy is it. And he had great numbers that game. No, the opener.
The opener.
The 21 opener. I was talking to people after that game. I'm like, that game's on 6. Like, he lost them that game. I don't care what his numbers were, first through third quarters. He lost them that game in the fourth quarter.
Well, I look at it. I keep just reaching. We go down the timeline. Now, look, Baker has been 2 other places. He got another opportunity to do his thing. But everything that you said for Baker, you can say for Stefanski. Since he's been here, it's about the week to week to week to week ups, downs.
With 6 different quarterbacks?
6 different quarterbacks, right?
I mean, he's had them all.
So
Stefanski has.
He's had 6 different quarterbacks. Here's the thing. I'll look at it, and I said, when you going to start stringing, besides the 2020 season, it's win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 2, win 1, lose 1. Where is the consistency of putting those games together?
It only happened in 2020.
Only happened
in
2020.
They won 4 games in a row twice.
And so now we look at it, and I'm looking at it from a standpoint of saying, okay, where's your signature win?
Right. But the question about Baker, though, circling back to that.
Yeah.
Are you rooting for Baker in Tampa?
I don't root for nobody. I ain't a fan.
You don't? Really?
Nah. What I do is I look at it, and I just be objective on it. If he's balling, I just say he balling. That's what the film say. I'm married to the film. Even if I don't really per se like you or like you.
But you're human. You have to be like, oh, it's good to see so-and-so rise above it. Dak's story in Dallas and his life is so incredible. I always root for him, but I always know what I'm going to get.
I always say this. The football is the greatest sport in the world, because it don't matter what I say about you or anybody else. You get an opportunity to shut everybody up. You can come out here and ball, and I got to say.
But you root for guys, don't you?
I root for the Browns.
That's it. Outside of the Browns.
All right, so you're rooting for Baker.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever actively root against someone? I want this guy to fail.
The Steelers. Anyone who wears black and yellow.
That's an example.
The people in my division, I don't be wanting to see the division.
So you do want them to perform poorly.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like individuals.
No, but I enjoy the game.
Danny Dimes. I'm ambivalent about him. I don't care what the hell
I'll give you this. If you got, I enjoy people who got really good talent. Like, so Michael Parsons, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll watch him because he's really good. I'm like, yo, I'm a fan of it.
And you appreciate it.
And I appreciate it. I'm appreciative of the skill in the game. I wouldn't say that I root for anybody actively except for the Browns. That's why I be just doing too much.
I am actively rooting against Baker Mayfield.
We know.
We know.
That was and here's the thing about that. Like, it's a personal choice. That's your choice. You can do that whatever you want. By the way, it doesn't affect how they play. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah.
My rule of thumb is, and are there exceptions? Of course. But in general, if it's easy to root for everybody. I want everybody to do well. But you can't have the teams in your division do well. So I actively root against
Oh, yeah.
the Steelers and the Ravens. I found myself, I felt like I needed a shower after that Steelers game because I was rooting for Pittsburgh.
It was disgusting.
I just felt like, can I wash this stink off
You
me?
were rooting for Pittsburgh, huh?
Yeah, well, you had to. The standings dictated that we had to be Steelers fans yesterday.
yeah.
And I felt gross as hell about it. Outside of that, and you'll hear a lot of pro athletes say this, I don't root for teams, I root for my former teammates that I know and I play with. When you cover the sport for as long as I have and you guys have been around it, you meet people that are just easy to root for. I like that guy. Dak is one of them that I just, every time I watch him, I'm like, come on, man. Don't mess this up.
What comes to mind is Alex Smith when he broke his leg.
Yes. Well, the whole world was.
Like Alex Smith,
horrible.
I was like, I wanted to see him come back like and play well.
I've met Baker a number of times, worked with his wife. Baker's not an easy guy to root for. He's just not. He says the wrong thing at the wrong time. To your point, I need my quarterback in the top 5 lists of skills. I think 1 or 2 has to be better in the clutch than the first quarter.
Yeah.
I need that. He was never that guy. And he and I personally never had any bad dealings. I never said anything that he felt he had to reach out about. There were a couple of times he actually reached out to ask questions about certain things. But he's not an easy guy to root for. But the guy I saw in that McAfee clip, to me, I think he showed a little bit of maturity. Because I thought, when I first saw that the clip was posted, I thought, here comes the grenade.
Yep.
He's feeling himself. He's having a good year. Here it comes. Because we falsely reported a comment that Baker didn't make that we thought, here he goes again.
That's Elon Musk's fault.
We all believed it for one reason. Because it fit his mold. It fit his character.
But Jay, have you ever seen a player smell themselves more without accomplishing that little?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Ooh, name a
players that have felt. Well, you're putting me on the spot right now.
Johnny Manziel.
You're asking me players who felt they were great and they sucked.
Most
the list is long.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
The list.
I'm saying the guy. Every time he has a game or two where he plays well, he's out there bragging.
You're making my point
all the time.
Although you're helping me make my point.
He's been humbled the last couple of years.
And that's my point.
Yes.
So you
humbled
both made my point.
when he says, I don't know what happened in Cleveland. He's always the victim.
No, Bull, you're looking for something that isn't there on this instance. Because to your first point, that's why I'm saying it's hard for me to actively root for this guy because he's been that guy.
Right.
What I saw Friday on the McAfee Show, to your point, and the point I started making originally was he handled it differently. He could have taken a small victory lap and said, you know what, I don't even think about those guys because they are where they are and we are where we are and I like where I am a lot better. He could have.
Yeah.
But you know what he said? Yeah, I really don't know what happened there. And then he went on to say, I played with a mangled shoulder all year and thought I would get a little leeway for that, and they ran me out of town.
Yeah.